Hello again, and welcome back to Educator.com's Introduction to PHP course. In today's lesson, we're going to be introducing a bunch of new operators. In particular, we're going to be introducing a group of operators known as the logical operators, and we're also going to be introducing what's known as the ternary operator. So as mentioned, we're going to be talking about a number of different operators that fall under the class of logical operators, which basically allow you to create sort of complex Boolean test conditions, which are often used in if statements and so forth. We're going to talk about how a couple of the operators, logical operators, are known as short circuit operators. We're going to explain what that means. And then finally, we're going to end up by talking about the ternary operator, which is a special operator in PHP. So as mentioned, logical operators are basically used to create complex Boolean expressions, and they operate on Boolean values. The ones that are provided by PHP are the not operator, the or operator, the and operator, and the XOR operator. And basically what they do is, for example, the not operator is a unary operator, and what that does is that return whatever Boolean value it acts on, it returns the opposite. So if the Boolean value is true, if you prepend the not operator, which is a exclamation point, to a Boolean value, it's going to return the opposite. So if you prepend it to true, it's going to return false. If you prepend it to false, it's going to return true. Then there's also there's a binary operator known as the OR operator, and it actually has two forms. It can be used with two vertical bars, which are the same key on the keyboard as the backslash, typically. And then there's also the operator, which is the OR keyword. Now, this is again is a binary operator, and what it does is it returns true if either its left or right operand are true. So it operates on two Boolean values. So the only case it returns false is if both of its values, both of its operands are false. And is sort of the kind of the converse of the OR operation, and it also has two ways to specify that: double ampersands, and then also by the AND keyword. And it's a binary operator that returns true only if both its left and its right operand are true. So if they're not both true, every other condition it returns false. Finally, there's the XOR operator, which is known as the exclusive OR operator, and this is how it's specified in your code. And it's a binary operator that's similar to the OR operator. It returns true if either one of its operands are true, but not if they're both true. So it's an exclusive OR. It can only be one or the other. The OR and logical operators, as mentioned, have two different options. And the reason they have the different options, for example, the OR operator has the vertical bar option and the OR option, is because they have different precedences, different operator precedences. So, for example, the vertical bars have a higher precedence than the OR operator, and the double ampersands have a higher precedence than the AND operator. The lower precedence versions are not used very often, and we're not going to really be talking about them much in this course. And the ones you'll mainly see will be these double vertical bars, the OR operator, and the double ampersand. Now, just to talk about in general about the precedence of all of the logical operators, sort of from highest to lowest, they go this way. Basically, the NOT operator has the highest precedence, then it's the AND, the OR, and so forth. And additionally, all the logical operators are left associative except for the NOT operator, the exclamation point, which is right associative. So let's actually go and take a look at a script called logicalops.php that demonstrates these logical operators in action. Basically, we're first going to talk about the not logical operator, which is the exclamation point. And as we know with if statements, an if statement evaluates its statement group if its test condition is true. In this case, we have the not operator being appended or prepended to the literal value false. So as we mentioned, it says the opposite truth value of what it's provided, of its operand. Since it's not false, the opposite of false is true. This test condition here is going to evaluate as true, so this echo statement, or this statement right here, will be output. Now, if we did the same thing using a Boolean variable to show that it can work on variables as well, we create a temp Boolean variable. We set it equal to true, and then we set the condition equal to not temp bool. So in this case, it's going to be if not true, and not true is always going to equal to false. Because this test condition will be false, this will not get executed, and instead the else statement group will get executed. So this statement down here will be executed. Now to demonstrate the OR operator, as mentioned, the OR operator will return true anytime either one of its operands is true. So using literal values, in these first three cases here, where we have either one of the operands is true, or in this case, the third case, both the operands are true, each of these test conditions are going to evaluate to the expression true. So all of these echo statements within these if statements are going to get output. Now the only time it returns false is the OR operator returns false if both of its operands are false. So here if we have if false or false, that's going to return false, and so the else echo statement is going to be echoed. Down here, this is the same exact thing with the same exact results, except it uses the lower precedence OR operator, but it demonstrates the same logical functionality, which is, if one or the other is true, return true. For the AND operators, as mentioned, that binary operator only returns true if both of its operands are true. So in this first case here, if we say true and true, that will evaluate to true, and so this echo statement will be output. In these other three examples, where we have true and false, false and true, or false and false, all of those are going to return the Boolean value false because both operands are not true. And so in these cases, the echo statements in the corresponding else statement groups are what's going to be executed. Down here is just, again, an example of the lower precedence AND operator. It has the same logical functionality, only returning true if both operands are true, and this is just what it looks like in code. Now the XOR operator, which only has one version, returns true if either one of its values are true, either one of its operands are true, but not both. So in this case, these first two cases here, where only one of the operands is true, these if echo statements will get output. However, in each of these cases where it's true XOR true and false XOR false, both of those logical operations will return false, so this the else echo statement will be output. And down here it just shows the results of these different operations. Basically it's the output from all these if and else statements that we had up above, and basically saying it's kind of like a truth table explaining how these operators work. Not false equals true, not true equals false, and then so forth. The OR operators return true except when both operands are false. The AND operators only return true when both of its operands are true. And then, as we learned with the XOR operator, it only returns true when one of its operands is true. Now, if we actually look at the code behind this, this is logicalops.php. Scroll down to the code section. For example, where we have the OR operator, in this second OR, in the fourth demonstration of the vertical bar OR operator, we have an if-else statement, and it's basically saying if false or false, echo this statement here, otherwise echo this statement here. Well, because false or false is always going to be false, this statement here is never going to get echoed. So what we can do instead is actually use a combination of logical operators. So we can actually change this so that, and get rid of the else statement by including the not operator. And what we're saying is if false or false is not true, meaning it's false, then go ahead and evaluate the if statement. So in that case, we can get rid of this else statement and replace its output up here. And this shows, again, a combination of using logical operators in combination with each other. So basically, we have the first logical operation, which is false or false, which is going to return the value false. Then we're performing the not operation on that false value, which is going to return true. Therefore, this echo statement is going to be returned, which says false or false equals false. If we go back, if we save this and go back and look at the page, down here in the results for the OR operator, we should actually see the same results. And it refreshed, and we can see that false or false equals false. So that's an example of using combination of logical operators. Now, two of the operators, the OR and AND logical operators, both versions of those operators are known as short circuit operators. And what that means is if the value of their left operand, which is an expression, can determine the output of their operation, then the right operand or right expression is not evaluated at all. So for example, with the OR operator, we know that it returns true anytime either operand is false. So if the first operand, the left operand, evaluates to true, there's no need to evaluate the right operand because we know the operation is always going to return false. Likewise, or in an opposite way for the AND operator, the AND operator we know only returns true when both of its values are true. So if the left operand or first operand is false, we know the AND operation is always going to return false, and so there's no need to evaluate the right operand or right expression. So if we go and look at a script called short circuit ops.php, we can see this short circuit operation in action. So for the OR variable, the OR operation, and we're going to use the vertical bar version, if we create a variable called OR temp and set it equal to 0, and then we say if true or temp equals 1. Now OR temp equals 1 is an assignment statement, and assignment statements, as we know, are expressions, and they have a value, and the value of an assignment statement is the value that's being assigned. So this expression, if it were to be evaluated, would have the value of 1. So if we go ahead and run this if statement here, because this first operand is true, that determines the output of the operation. The OR operator is a short circuit operator, so this actually second expression never gets evaluated. So the value of OR temp never gets updated to 1, so when we echo this statement down here that echoes the value of OR temp, it's still going to have the value of 0. And if we look down at the bottom, we can see OR temp equals 0 in this first example. Now let's say we switch the order around. The left operand always gets evaluated. In this case, this is going to evaluate OR temp equals 1. So that means OR temp is now going to be updated. It's going to have the value of 1, and then it's going to say 1 or true. And since that's always going to return true, then what you have is we're going to echo out the OR temp value, and we're going to see that it's actually been updated in this case. So if we look down here, we see OR temp equals 1. So that shows how the short circuit operation of the OR operator works. Similarly for the AND operator, if we declare a variable AND temp, we set it equal to 0, and we have a Boolean expression that's a logical operation that's false ANDed with the assignment operation of where you're assigning the value 1 to AND temp. We can see that as a result, AND temp is never actually going to get set equal to 1. So when this echo statement occurs, AND temp is going to output 0, and that's because we know that the left operand is false, so the AND operation is always going to return false. There's no need to evaluate this left expression. And as you can see here, we sort of use what we had talked about in the last example where we're combining logical operators. Here we have an AND operation, false, and this assignment statement. And if that returns false, which is going to, then we can use the NOT operator, prepend that to that, and it's going to return it as true, which makes this echo statement evaluate. So if we look at the output of this if statement right here, we can see that AND temp is going to be equal to 0. That's because this AND temp equals 1 assignment statement never occurs. Again, as we saw with the OR example, if we switch the order of the operands on the AND statement, this AND temp equals 1 assignment statement will always get executed. So the value of AND temp equals 1, or the value of AND temp is going to get set to 1, and because this operation is going to return false, and then we perform the NOT operation on that, which is going to return true, this echo statement will occur, AND temp will be outputted, and here we can see that it's output to the value of 1. So now I want to talk about a special operator called a ternary operator. Sometimes it's also referred to as the conditional operator. As the name implies, it's a ternary operator, which is a 3-operand operator, and it's the only ternary operator within PHP. And the way it works is, here's an example of what it looks like in action down here. Its first operand, here op1, is a Boolean expression, or it's interpreted as a Boolean expression or a Boolean value. If it equals true, then after the question mark is the second operand, then the second operand will be returned. So whenever op1 equals true, this will be returned as the output of this operation. If op1 equals false, then op3 will be returned. And again, or to mention, it uses a question mark to separate the first and second operands, and the colon to separate the second and third. So again, if op1 is true, the second operand is the output of the ternary operation. If op1 is false, the third operand is the output of the ternary operation. So let's take a look at a script that demonstrates that, ternary op.php. Basically what we have here is a ternary operation where we have a variable result, and we're setting it equal to the output of a ternary operation. And here we can see a ternary operation has the question mark, the colon, and the three operands. We set the first operand to the literal value true. So because it's true, we know from what we just learned that the ternary operator outputs the value of the second operand. So in this case, result is going to be set to second op. And when we output the result, it's going to say second op. And if we look down here, we can see this first output is output equals second op. Likewise, if we instead set result equal to this ternary operation, because the first operand is false, the output of the ternary operator is going to be the third operand, in this case the string third op, so our output is going to say the string third op, and in fact that's what it does. Now, one other thing that you can do is this uses literals, but to demonstrate, you're typically not going to be using literals as the first operand in a ternary operator. You're going to be using variables and combinations of variables using comparison operators, logical operators, and so forth. Here, if we declare a variable temp equal to 1, and then we run the comparison operation temp equals 1, and this is, again, as we learned from our lesson on comparison operators, the equals operator, and it returns true if both values on each side of it, if both of its operands values are equal. So temp equals 1, so 1 equals true, so it's going to output the second operand, which says temp equals 1, and we can see down here output it says temp equals 1. Now if instead we go ahead and set temp equal to 0 and run the same ternary operation and store it in its output in result, this is going to evaluate 0 equal 1, which is going to evaluate to false because 0 is not equal to 1. So the third operand is going to be output, which in this case is a string that says temp not equal to 1. And we can see our output down here. It says temp not equal to 1. So I just want to quickly talk about coding conventions as it relates to these different operators, particularly the logical operators. Basically, PHP is always going to abide by the rules of precedence and associativity as it evaluates different expressions. So for example, this if test condition here and this if test condition right here, they actually evaluate to the exact same value, the exact same Boolean value. It's a combination of two logical operators, a logical and a logical or operator. However, this one has parentheses around the and operation. Now, the and operation has a higher precedence, so when this statement up here gets evaluated, this operation will always occur first. The result of that will be ORed with the a operation. Now down here, the same thing happens, except we explicitly put in these parentheses. And what that does is, even though the parentheses aren't needed, it makes the code a little bit easier to read and a little bit easier to understand. So maybe if somebody's reading your code that's not as experienced in PHP and is working on it, they can sort of intuitively know that, okay, this AND operation is always going to happen. And it kind of goes along the lines of, if you can make your life easier by adding, just a few extra things, then why not take the extra step to go ahead and add these extra parentheses. So in our examples in this course, we're always going to add extra parentheses to make it explicitly clear which order the operations are going to occur in, even though it's not necessarily necessary. So for today's homework challenge, I'm going to have you create a script that accepts two get variables, one called sex and one called age. For this challenge, we want the sex variable to either take on one of two values, male or female, and then let age represent the age of a user and have it take on the values between 1 and 99. And basically, I want you to add a single if statement to your script, and this is to practice using the not operator. And basically, it's going to test if the sex get variable is not equal to male, then it should output a message that says the user sex is female. And what you can do to test this out is to manually edit get query strings, using both of these name value pairs, sex equals male and sex equals female, to make sure you're only getting your output message if the sex is listed as female. Now I want you to alter the if statement so that instead of having this not operation, it's going to have an or operation. And what I want it to do is output true anytime the age provided is less than 25 or if it's greater than 50. And if that condition is met, you should output a message that says the user's age is not in the 25 to 50 age range. And the way you can test that is to generate test queries with where you set age equal to 3 different values to make sure that the test condition is completely evaluated. You set it once equal to a value less than 25, once equal to a value greater than 50, and once to a value in between 25 and 50. And the only time, and when you run these test queries, the only time that you should see output is when the user's age is not in the 25 to 50 range. So go ahead and test that and make sure that it's running correctly. Then I'm going to have you expand your test condition even further, and this is to get practice with using complex or combinations of logical operators, and we're going to include an AND operator. And basically I want the test condition to check if the user is not between 25 and 50 and they're also a male. So it's going to output a message, if this condition is met, it's going to output a message that says the user is a male not in the 25 to 50 age range. And the way you can test that is use the same query strings you used in step 5 up here with the different age provided to test the 3 different age sort of groups, but then add the name value pair sex once with the value male and once with the value female. And you should only see the output when the sex is equal to male. And so that's going to give you practice working with a combination of logical operators, in this case the AND and the OR operator. Again, as we had mentioned, the AND always has higher precedence than the OR operator, but practice when you write your code using extra parentheses in there to make it explicit to anybody that looks at your code exactly what order the operations are occurring in. Then I want you to just go ahead and remove the if statement from the script, and we're going to get a little practice with the ternary operator. And basically, I want you to create a variable that's an output of a ternary operation, and the ternary operation is, the first operand is going to be a test to see if the sex is female. If the sex variable provided by a get is female, it's going to set the variable value to user as female. If it's not, it's going to set the variable value to user as false. And when you do that, remember that if the test condition of a ternary operator, the first operand is true, the second operand is output, and if it's false, the third operand is output. And the way you can test this is by generating 2 query strings, one with sex equals female and one with sex equals male. And what you can do is run this script with both of these query strings and make sure that you get the correct message output. When you provide, sex is male, you get an output that says user is male. When it says sex is female, you get the output that says user is female. So that ends today's lesson. Thank you for watching educator.com, and look forward to seeing you next time.